So thank you all for coming to this talk. Thank you for staying awake after the excellent barbecue. Thank you for coming to BSides, supporting the overall BSides awesomeness. I know in Trey's keynote, there were a lot of people that have never been to any cons and never been to any BSides. And that is the greatest knowledge of knowing that we are reaching new people rather than talking to the same InfoSec people over and over again and sharing the same InfoSec stuff over and over again. It's amazing and wonderful and exciting to be hitting new areas. So this talk is titled The Great Trojan Demo, not because it's really, really great, just because it hits an area where I wasn't seeing a lot of interesting talk, and so I wanted to, show a specific use case, show a specific set of techniques that I use, and then talk about a very kind of deep underlying question of why we do what we do and what we need to be doing in our businesses, or wherever we're working, or even, maybe taking it into our own hands, personal security at home. So I hope this helps with you. The idea is supposed to help everybody. So a few months now back, Dr. Cryptia on Twitter said something to the effect, or actually had a really long blog post, about we've been doing this InfoSec security thing for a decently long period of time. I mean, we're still a new industry compared to a lot of places, but how much impact are we having when we have all these various standards, all these various regulatory compliance type things, all of these tools, all of these people, and there's still never enough people going around doing this, and we keep running into the same issues over and over and over again. Just a little background on me. I work for a company called Parameter Security. We're based out of St. Louis. We are a third-party audit house, which basically means I get to do all the fun parts of saying, this is what I found that's bad on your network. Here's some ideas for fixing it. Wash my hands, walk away. Once I do the deliverable, I'm not fixing anything. I'm not providing any solutions. I'm happy to give resources or talk, but I don't have to do the blue team side of things. Before I started doing this wonderful job called pen testing and incident response and PCI QSA and all this other stuff, I was a network admin at a hospital. Not a huge hospital, not a small hospital, kind of in the middle, what they call critical access in Missouri. I don't know if you guys have that here. But we have all the same tech as the big guys. We just service a lot less people, and we flip them in and out really, really fast. So we see a huge throughput of people being treated for whatever. And we use the same high-tech devices and same really insecure configurations to make the doctors happy. And I supported that system, various systems, that environment for about 5 to 6 years. And when I realized that my butt was on the line because of HIPAA and high-tech in 2009, 2006, when they said, okay, the guy who is the security person, they have to sign all this and say, yep, it's my fault, and you're the person that your head is on the chopping block if things go bad. I realized I needed to get into this security stuff. I had learned network admin, I had learned system admin, I had done break-fix work, I had done tech support at all levels. But it becomes a whole different ballgame when there's thousands of patients, tens of thousands of patients who the security of their identity, their medical record, and all of that relies on the business decisions that you make to protect the environment. It gains a whole nother level. Especially in healthcare. I mean, my bank gets breached, my identity gets stolen, and some of my credit cards get canceled. Yeah, it's annoying and it's horrible, and I don't want that to happen. But my medical record gets used, and somebody goes in to get an appendectomy, and I don't, and then later I need an appendectomy. The doctors are going to waste critical time looking for the reasons why I'm having lower right-hand quadrant pain that don't have to do with an appendix, because in my medical record, they think it's already gone. And so people die because of this stuff. And when people's lives are on the line, you need to be thinking about what you're doing. So Cryptia had this blog post, and I paraphrased it with permission and added it to one of my favorite memes. We have an epidemic of just bad things in our environments, and we don't know what our environment actually looks like half the time. And this is a problem. And the major reason to me that this is a problem is because we have this malware that takes advantage of that. I literally just responded a couple weeks ago to a incident response thing. Can't disclose a lot about it, but basically it came down to a really well-known Trojan family variant hit a company. They almost lost $750,000, and if it hadn't been for their bank and stuff they had set up earlier about making sure that certain fraud things didn't happen, that money would have just been gone. And they would have had no idea about it until the bank statements came back. Oh, look, there's $750,000 gone. Where'd it go? And the sad part was, even with all the prep they had done that kept them from losing that money, they still couldn't figure out where the malware came from. They still couldn't figure out how it got on the network. They still couldn't figure out very easily if anybody else had the same malware on their systems. And this is not a small fly-by-night company. This is somebody who's got the time, the resources, and has spent a lot of time looking at their networks and trying to figure out how best to protect them. So malware is freaking everywhere, and I love this stuff. And I will, one of my main disclosures is I am not a coder by any stretch of the imagination. I will term myself scripter lightly, and I say that because if you put enough imports together in Python, you can make some really cool stuff happen. Everybody has seen the XKCD comic of, hey, I import anti-gravity, I'm flying. Well, I also sampled a lot of things from the medicine cabinet, but I'm pretty sure it's the Python. That's where my level is. Heather was talking about some books and resources, and I totally will add to that or say what she was saying too, that there's a lot out there you can do without having to know everything about Python. So when I say I love this malware stuff, I love creating my own for certain definitions of my own. I like tinkering with other people's better ideas and making it my own. And luckily, the infrastructure and the environment that we live in, you can get by with that. And that's one of the things I want to talk about. Almost everybody that I've worked with, either as their auditor, their pen tester, as helping them with incident response, just coming in as a PCI person afterwards and saying, hey, have you hit all these checkboxes? What did they do on your other pen test? I'll ask them, so how many malware security incidences have you had? And sometimes a lot of people will just go, is that something we're supposed to be tracking? Well, do you consider it a threat? Are you worried about it at all? Maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. Have you done a risk assessment? This says you did, but did you actually do it, read it, internalize it, act on it, any of that kind of stuff? And people don't know. There's so many things, there's so many softwares out there that will kind of hide this under a blanket of, yeah, there was some malware, yeah, it might have been a Trojan, but we took most of care of it, and it shouldn't be there anymore. And it gets into a report somewhere on some line of code that maybe an analyst looks at. Maybe they don't. So this stuff is everywhere. The one in particular that I so love as far as overall malware is what we call remote access tools. RATs. Trojans is another word for it, but Christian campus. We're going to use the term RATs. These tools are the same tools that we use like PowerShell, like TeamViewer, like VNC, like Remote Desktop. The trick is, does someone know you have remote access to their system, or do they not? When I was a break-fix guy in a very small town and I didn't want to drive to people's houses to fix their computers, I used a web program called showmypc.com. It's really cheap, it's really easy, and if you're using it commercially, it's still pretty cheap. Literally, you have somebody visit a website, they put in a number, they give you that number, and you visiting the same website using the same software have access to their computer. Simple, easy peasy, and then I have remote control, so I can be like, no, here, you actually moved the folder into this other folder, you didn't actually delete it, or here's how the recycle bin works, or you can fix the easy stuff remotely. Same type of software is exactly what I use as a pen tester. Throw it on an open share somewhere in the network, and it just says, click me. I really wish I hadn't used that once before, but I did, and I ended up with more remote connections than when I had, payroll. Oh, click me. Oh, obviously that's what the boss wants me to do. You use the same tool to give yourself remote control access in a pen test as you use for remote access for break-fix work, and the bad guys use the same stuff too. Again, the only difference is, do they know they're allowing remote access? And most of the time, people have no idea. Really scary part is most of the time businesses have no idea what's going out their network, what remote access maybe is capable. So in general, I love this graphic. This is actually off of Wikipedia. This is how a Trojan works. It communicates over the internet. All right, done. No, there's a little bit more to that. But I'm sorry. Yeah, no. There's a little bit more to that, and actually, that's something that I love talking about, and I do variations of this talk, and that's really all I do because this is what I like talking about, and I get to go to cons and drink with people and talking to fun. So the videos and demos we usually see on malware, and I'm going to show you another one just because why not? Show what a Trojan can do from a VM to a VM. And that's scary. I have frightened many doctors, many C-level people, many accountants, many tech guys, many network engineers, just by showing them, here's two VMs talking to each other. See, I can pop up a window. Look, I can look at your Windows keys. Look, I can keylog. Look, I can do this. But then I had I had several people eventually say, well, wait a second, that's not that interesting. That's just VMs. This isn't how it works in the real world. And I go, well, yeah. Oh, you want to see how it works in the real world? Oh, okay. Well, let me do a demo then. So I'm going to switch this around here real quick. So I want to show you just, again, who all has seen a Trojan in action from either side of the communication? All right, I got like 7 hands out of 30, 20 people, I don't know. And that's actually higher than most times that I do this talk. So usually it's one person, and I recognize them as one of my competitors or somebody from my own company. But this talk, hey, what do you know? A bunch of people. So let me switch my view here around. So demo gods be kind. This is why I don't do live demos. Can everybody see that? A little bit? Or you couldn't see it before that? It was black, but now we have video. You've got video. Okay. See, I do this to take up more time. All right, so this is one particular remote access tool that some of the old hands in the room will really know well. It's called Dark Comet. Classic. Written by a French gentleman whose name escapes me. I want to say Jean-Luc, but that may just be stereotypical. Card, yeah, something like that. So this is a tool. It's actually a construction kit. And what you do with this is you build, the server piece, the client piece. You set up a listener on your end. You send the server piece to somebody else. It dials, it makes a reverse connection. And so literally what I'm walking through here is, okay, I have my system. Listen on any port I want to. Set up my listener. Build a server. And there's a lot of intricacies on things you can change to try and hide the Trojan on the system. And that's a whole nother, not even a talk, but a class on the various things you can do to hide this stuff. And it's a lot of fun to experiment with. But at the end of the day, what matters is if you spend, 5 minutes with a few tools out on the internet, you can build malware that's very hard to detect on most systems. Anybody disagree with me on that one? Didn't think so. So this one is actually going to throw up an error message of, hey, the file's corrupt. You downloaded this. Just download it again later. Fairly standard, trick the user, social engineering, so that they just ignore what you did. And again, this is classic Trojan. Has worked this way 90s on, I would say. Once we got firewalls that actually blocked ports beyond the first 1024, blocked everything except what we allow. You couldn't do bind connections where you actually called into a system and just opened up port 80 or whatnot. You had to have it call home to you. So reverse connect Trojans. And that's generally when I'm responding to incidences in the real world last week, 2 months ago, several others. This is what I see. Again, if I'm lucky, I see it. See the network traffic, but we'll get into that. So this Trojan, again, we can add stuff to it. We can write more stuff to it. We're going to use a file binder to, we can add it to a pre-existing exe. But I'm just creating a stub here with general compression capability so that some antivirus might not know it. Now, actually, if you were to use this kit today, pretty much everybody would be able to detect it, and that's because the author saw that everybody that was using his code was using it against the terms of use, which were basically do no evil. And so he said, okay, screw it. I'm not going to develop this anymore. Any of these you see on the internet, they're probably backdoored. They're not mine. Don't use it. So I have a legit copy from way too long ago that I can still use for demonstration purposes. But basically, instead of this screen with, oh, it's fine, by McAfee, not just picking on McAfee, just about everybody at the time this video was reported also would not have detected it. Pretty much everybody should now. But that's just one layer of protection. The incident that I ran into a couple of weeks ago, their antivirus caught the Trojan that the people were using to keylog, sniff some traffic, create a wire transfer, send the wire transfer, approve the wire transfer, and if it hadn't been for the bank, it would have got stopped. So even though whatever antivirus or anti-malware company it was detected it, it still shot itself into memory well enough that even though the EXE was caught, some of the other DLLs were caught, it still existed in the memory for long enough before they rebooted that they had the problem. So, this is generally just showing here's the kinds of things we can do. And again, this is what freaks people out. Oh, look, I can figure out maybe where you are. Now, VMs show up as Golden, Colorado. I can make the piano play. Has anybody heard their piano on the BIOS speakers? It's creepy all by itself, even when you're doing it on purpose. Or even more fun than that, have you ever had Microsoft Reader talk to you? Creepy electronic voice? Okay. All right. So again, this is what general the Trojans look like. And again, this is not what the people want. We want to see other demos. We want to see what it looks like in the real world. What's the barrier to making that type of video? Okay, video does not change quickly. Good to know. So the question that was raised was, why doesn't anybody do it the way we want to see it? What do you have to do? So I had to build a lab that I could then do this type of testing. And I set up one lab that was just a regular tier, flat network, standard business, small mom and pop business, maybe multinational corporate business too. Flat network. Have it with a firewall that blocks most of the incoming, doesn't block anything outgoing. Can you call home, and what does the traffic look like? This guy is not coming back, is it? Pause for technical difficulties. Here, not there, because you're still seeing my slides, right? Okay. So again, this is more just a talking point. The networks that I run into, again, on the blue team side of things, they're very flat, or if they have any egress controls whatsoever, it's very minimal, known bad, don't go to the China malware sites. So any egress filtering is either at the content level, HTTP don't go to porn sites, or it's very minuscule whitelisting, maybe geo whitelisting. And unfortunately, that doesn't stop this kind of stuff. Really, we're still going to do this, do that. I want you guys to see this other video. So I'm going to show another dropper. Again, the same kind of code. Maybe. See, this is why nobody likes doing live demos, because even recorded demos, stuff like this happens. Doesn't seem to know my input now. You can see me here, but that can't see me. Let's play with this. Valid button. All right, this would be a great time for a question from the audience to field so that we can play with it while we're at it. Let's see. Nope. Fun. So again, the Trojans that we're looking at don't have to be that sophisticated. What I'm working with, what I want to show is a tool called Etherape. Is anybody familiar with this one? Does anybody do Wireshark, Network Miner, any of that fun packet capture type stuff? Okay, so Wireshark is great for analysis, but how many of you are really good at reading Wireshark while it's scrolling? Exactly. Network Miner is another tool that I use for forensics because it's Wireshark plus throw this stuff into buckets. Here's a credential bucket, here's an images bucket, here's a DNS bucket, and it allows you to quickly go through traffic and say, these are the things that I want to look at. And when I'm on a network doing incident response, looking for these Trojans, I want to see what are the DNS queries out that are not normal. When I'm doing these types of incidents, I want to see what websites people are going to. And if I can look at packet captures from before we knew we had some problems, I'll look at that too and throw it into the same bucket and see if we can find a trend. Compare that to some lists of known bad malware DNS sites, known bad malware dropping sites, that kind of thing. You can figure out, oh, hey, we've got something nasty on the network. The main problem that we run into, though, is that nobody knows what they're supposed to be doing on their network. How many of you right now, if you had a Trojan on your network, would get some kind of alert that there is an abnormality to your network traffic? You're going to sites that you don't usually go to. Yeah, you don't count in. Very rarely do I see that. Very rarely in corporate world do we see any type of egress filtering. And again, it's usually very, very small. They don't know what's on their network to begin with. You know, how many could give a round 100 number of how many devices are on your network right now? Within 100 devices? Within 20 devices? Within 5 devices? So somebody could walk in, somebody like me who looks like every other tech guy you've ever seen, could walk in, put a laptop on the network, throw up OpenVPN, going to a legitimate US site that I just happen to control. Would you be able to find that on your network? 3 different times in the last 6 months, companies I've worked with, no, we don't see the OpenVPN traffic. It's HTTPS going out. That's common stuff, man. That's no problem. And they go, what, you mean we might need to be able to look at HTTPS traffic outbound and see if it's legitimate or not? Well, only if you want to find these Trojans that I'm writing or manipulating. And then, again, it's where is it going and can you tell the difference between the normal? I had an incident where we walked in social engineering. We got into the manager's office. We hopped on their computer using a tool called Conboot and just literally downloaded OpenVPN, downloaded a new certificate, created it, and shot it to our testing environment. And I actually created the account Ben Hacker, and it was a Windows 7 environment. So the manager's logon, if you saw their regular login screen, would have the manager's username, and then it would have Ben Hacker. And nobody said anything. They went a month with that account on a computer, OpenVPN running, and they were like, oh yeah, we never got a report from the user, from anybody in the network engineering, in the SOC. Nobody saw it. So that's scary. Okay, I'm about to give up on having a demo video. If everybody wants to come over here, say again. I unplugged and replugged. I've switched my inputs. We might just be screwed. You can still see it, right, video dude? Okay, so at this point, I'm just going to show my... I can try that. Dude, as you say, thank you, Tim, for the IT crowd reference and whoever else said that. Yeah. I do love that show. All right, so if anybody wants to hit me up after, I will show you this video privately. But basically, the tool that I use for live monitoring, that I want to be able to use, and really you have to have, there's a problem with scale with it, but EtherApe is a tool that monitors live connections between systems. It is a great, say what? Oh, try it again. Did we turn it off? Okay. So EtherApe, what it does is it'll show you a list of systems that you've talked to. It'll show you in various colors what the traffic is that you're seeing. TCP, UDP, HTTPS, DNS, whatever. And it will color code and show connections. The brighter the lights and the more connection stuff you see, the more traffic is actually going. And so in real time, if somebody starts shooting just amazing amounts of data that they shouldn't be, when someone's on a system, then nobody's really actually sitting at that system, you can go, aha, there's traffic here. Now again, the problem is, our network devices anymore are extremely chatty. I have a network-connected printer at my office that I swear creates like 30% of my overall network traffic. And you have to account for that when you're doing these live monitoring type tools. You have to be able to filter that out and say, okay, this is known good, and then I can see, aha, we have known bad. That's the essential piece of everything I want to show you for the next half hour that we'll see. At the end of the day, does anybody know what the top SANS top 20 controls are? Does anybody name the top 2 off the top of your head? Inventory of?
Your assets.
Well, there's 2 of them, though.
Well,
Hardware and software. I submit that there should be a third, and it's network traffic. Because if you know what's on your network hardware, you know what's on your network software, you ought to be able to, again, not easily at scale, be able to figure out, okay, this is the traffic that I should have too, inventory-wise, on a general day. And there's always going to be a plus or minus of so many meg, gig, petabytes of transfer that you're doing. But, that's what it's going to take, especially as this malware continues to evolve. Who here is familiar with the direwolf Trojans that have been going out here lately? Yeah, I would hope so, Okay, good. So direwolf takes the general concept of, okay, we've got remote access. We've got a Trojan on your system. I'm going to add a little social engineering so that I know when you're doing this particular banking function, call you up as, hey, I know you're having issues going to this website because I'm making you have issues going to this website. Can you give me this and I'll emulate your environment? I will go through and see whatever else can happen. And I just need your two-factor auth token real quick. Oh crap, two-factor auth is supposed to keep us from being easily hacked like this, right? But if I add the social engineering aspect, I'm key logging, I'm remote access, I'm turning everything off so that you have to go through me to fix the problem. You give me your two-factor auth token, game over. Even better, I don't care how many people you split this up on. If I've got one Trojan on your network, I can usually add others pretty easily. A little bit of a beachhead gives me the capability of just spreading around the network. That's what we as pen testers try and emulate, or red team engagements try and emulate. And if I can do it in my compressed time frame, my limited budget and smaller team than some of the bad guys cyber criminals have, then you know they can do it. And they'll wait for months to figure this out and hit at the right time. And you end up with that situation where, oh look, $1 million went missing, and we have no logs of what happened. So we want to avoid that situation. And avoiding that situation is, again, a matter of knowing what's on our network and being able to say, this is known good, oh crap, this is known bad, and being able to do it quickly. There are some great information analytic tools out there like Splunk and other SIEMs. I mean, you can even emulate, if you've heard of the POSHSEC framework. You can build those tools yourself, not easily, but not horribly hard either. Go for it, dude. So you have the capability, is what I'm saying. You have the functionality. You have. You're not recording anymore, though. If it wasn't for technical issues, right, we wouldn't be at this conference and have jobs. Is it my laptop? Go for that. I was going to say, if you're dongle, because it was there. And, yeah, I know. Oh, I know. Christian campus, Adrian. Christian campus. It's all right. If that's the worst thing that ever gets out about me on Adrian's website, I am not going to be sad at all. So, at this point, I've kind of hit the edge of my rant that I can give sans slides. Yes, sir. What would be a good example of that? Not, specifics, but like a company that had a baseline of that. That's what they use to kind of set that up. The only time I've seen it so far really well done is somebody who builds the network from the start. And before you start having a lot of users, before you start having a lot of things, you see what the traffic is that the systems are generating. You check the traffic per software. Whatever internet-connected devices, whatever, maybe you're using a Salesforce-type cloud environment or whatnot. If you allow Dropbox on your network, that's going to have certain traffic implications. If you're using certain websites for sales marketing, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever you're allowing, you just need to account for that. Again, inventory that, and have a record of this is normal baseline. I roughly see this amount of traffic every day. It goes up and down depending on time of day, depending on whatnot. There's a lot of dashboard capability built into almost every network-attached device out there that you can keep track of this stuff. The trick is actually sitting down and keeping track of this stuff. And we're paid to use our time wisely, and the emphasis has been on, well, find the new tools, find the new blinky box, instead of know thyself really well. Again, personally, I use a combination of, I've got a friggin' Sonic Wall from Dell, I've got Wireshark running, throw some stuff in a network miner when I need to test out new software, Ether8 for, oh crap, what just happened type spot checking. And that works really well in an environment that's less than 100 systems. Once you start getting above that threshold, and you start moving into small to medium business size rather than boutique shop size, you need to start looking at some of the overall UTM type devices, which again, the Cisco devices with NetFlow, with a few other things, you can get that data together. The trick is having a good starting point. So you go back to your office tomorrow and you go, okay, I've got this many thousand systems. Here's all the traffic, and you drink from the fire hose. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Yay, Iron Geek and Lipscomb and BSides Nash people tech support. I didn't screw it up too bad. So when I drop a different, although not that much different device on here. Okay. So here's the issue again, not with the tech, not with the software, not with the inventory, not with all that I was just ranting about. The issue with doing this as a demo is how hard it is to control everything as one person and get a good video. The tech part of it, the Trojan part of it, that's easy. The network monitoring part of it, that's easy. Making the video work. So I'm literally on a system in my office, remoted into a system remotely at my testing location. I'm using TeamViewer to be able to click on my EXE and videotaping it, from both ends. I know, it could have been better, but that's what I ended up doing. And so that's why this looks a little goofy. And I've changed the resolution a little bit just so I don't give away too much information about my various environments. But you can already tell that part of what I'm doing is, that's my Minecraft system. My son sacrificed his Minecraft server for a couple weeks for me to do this demo. Thank you, Nathaniel. So again, this is that same dark comet. We hit the EXE, and this is the cheating part. I'm not showing you how to social engineer and drop the Trojan greatly. I'm just dropping the Trojan, rat, whichever you want to call it. That connection then, I'll flip screens here, or should, will pop up and show, oh hey, I have a new caller that's remoted into me. I hit the wrong button there apparently. And again, all that's happening here is this is actually set up so the initial conversation is HTTPS, going to port 443 on my testing system. And if you're not really looking at all the different web connections that are being created in your environment, this is going to look like every other HTTPS web visit. You guys keep a log of SSL certificates that are known good, known bad. How many of your users go ahead and, oh, this SSL certificate isn't trusted. Oh, okay, let me visit the website anyway. That might catch this kind of stuff. And again, I have all that same Trojan capability. I mean, that's one way, but again, that doesn't scale very well. But if you know, here's what we're going to allow, these are the known good that we want to trust environments, you can at least whitelist them and you have a smaller area to mess with. Yes, George? Mm-hmm.
People doing the live.
Right.
Those are the high value.
Yes.
Get them on their own site.
Yes. Right.
And then it makes doing profiling on just that segment much easier without trying to swallow it.
But the trick is, you have the whole network now. You have to figure out what those small segments are where you can win. That's what your risk assessment is for. So when I started back break fix guy, this would have been 2004, 2005 and whatnot, and I started getting a little power, which was scary for other people. The thing that I ran into is, you can't swallow the elephant whole. You can't do this kind of stuff. What you can do, though, is do a risk assessment on the overall business. Hopefully someone will let you, or at least let you get input. And if they have no idea what a risk assessment is, then it's time to start educating. When I started this, I was all about I want to learn new tech. I want to learn how to reverse engineer malware. I want to do this. I want to write in Python. One of these days I'll actually learn it. And I realized a couple years ago, no, the thing that more IT guys really need to know is that basic SysP stuff. And it just feels dirty saying it, but it's true. Doing a good risk assessment, doing a good inventory, doing good documentation, so that you can build, these are the important critical parts of my business that I need to be monitoring like this. The rest of it can go to pot. Users are going to screw up their systems anyway. We can win a lot more battles than what we're winning now. So this is EtherApe that I was trying to show. We finally have come full circle. This is what it looks like. Now the software I'm using to do screen record kind of goofs up if you throw too many things at the screen at one time. And I shoot off a lot of traffic here when this Trojan goes live. So the system to watch there, if you can see it okay, it's not zoomed in real well, there's a victim 2. I like to name my systems appropriately. Victim 2 is the system that we're actually compromising. And it's sending a ton of UDP traffic while I am communicating back and forth with my system. Now again, if you let stuff like, I don't know, what uses UDP? DNS? Anybody here play League of Legends? That's all UDP packets. Hopefully you don't let it on your corporate network. The screen starts to go a little crazy here. That we see a lot of red because, again, that's HTTPS jumping across there, and we're seeing the communication go back and forth. And again, this is live, real-time monitoring. And you can see there's communication happening here, and those systems, if they're in separate segments and aren't supposed to be talking, or if you've got a system that's only supposed to be doing internal activities and it's calling out to the World Wide Web, or doing any type of, why is this communication going on with the Netherlands or Belarus or Russia or China, or pick your APT. You can start to investigate, why is this happening right now? This also has a great logging function, so you can say, okay, I'm not sure what was happening here. I'm going to go back through it, throw it into Wireshark, throw it into Network Miner, see where stuff happened. That's what we want to see go on there. So, this plays for a little while. Now, again, this talk I give a couple different ways, and so we're going to go with, if you're on the red team side of things and you want to do this type of traffic, so you guys can only see one slide, right? Anytime you play with this software, and I'm recommending that you as a blue teamer play with this software, understand how this stuff works. What teaches you best about being defensive is being offensive. What teaches you best about offensive is defensive. And throw some forensic incident response in there if you can, and play with that stuff. But when you're playing with these Trojans, and again, don't use Dark Comet, it's backdoored. But there are other ones out there that you can use. Write your own code, or use somebody else's known code and test it. Set up an environment like this, VM to VM, what have you. Run it, see what happens, learn. Okay, so, hey look, video issues. I joke about it, and it actually happened. All right, so to the gentleman's question, what is our normal networks? How do we roll this out? You go kind of this progression. Everybody starts with a flat network, whether they mean to or not. Some people stay there. I had an international client that they could not tell me which subnets had which information on them, and none of them could not communicate. They owned a Class A worth of external IPs. They had a heck of a lot more internal. And they still had basically flat architecture. They couldn't tell me what was going out. They couldn't tell me what was going in. They couldn't tell me who was talking to anybody. And when they got breached, they wondered why they couldn't figure out what happened. Then, hopefully, as people mature, learn, and move on, we start to do, hey, let's segment this stuff. If for no other reason than for administration capability, so we can keep track of what's where, name stuff better, let's have some virtual segments. Let's set up VLANs. That'll fix all my PCI problems. And we usually get some blinky light devices. And maybe that gives us some peace of mind. But it might also give us false hope, which Jack was saying earlier today is a redundant set of words, false and hope. But a true tiered network, the way we need to do this so we actually know what the heck is going on in our environments is that we have business units segmented out, that they only talk to other business-justified devices through business-justified channels. If you have that, if you have finance section, IT section, marketing section, what have you, you can do that. Now, again, has anybody run into that where you actually have true segmentation like that in a big company? No, 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 yeah. I want to see more of this. Philosophically, we know, and a lot of us know, man, that would be great to run into. We run into time constraints, we run into money constraints, we run into personnel constraints. None of those are going away. The way we, again, chop it down to a manageable level is doing really good risk assessment and really good communication with our business units on how we need to do this. So, again, this was second demo is when I usually do this, and the sacrifice did not go well. This situation is, again, ugly and doesn't scale well if you're handling a lot of different systems. But if you can chop it down, start somewhere. The thing I did at the hospital was I saved my own butt first. I said, I want better visibility into what I'm doing, my techs are doing, and my boss is doing. I want better monitoring so that if we get popped, because we're human, we can show, hey, that was a malicious activity. That wasn't me trying to pull some crap. So I started with that justification and put my own skin in the game, and that gave me the ability to, gave me the reason to start doing this stuff right. And eventually, hopefully, with enough resources communication, you can get to the point where maybe your business will be this way. That's where we need to get. Things are changing. This problem of malware is not going away. It's only getting worse. So start learning now, start doing more. So the conclusion that I want you to come to is how well do you know your own network? Know them like your kids. And then I have to also add, know them better than you know your kids, because I have 3 boys, and I call each of them by the wrong name at least daily. It's really easy to love something and know a lot about it and still not know everything you need to know, is what I'm going for there. Know your network better. There's a reason why these are the top 2 controls. Inventory of hardware, inventory of software. Add to that inventory of known good network capability, and you'll have a lot less problems. Because here's the thing we all need to think about. How hard is it to know everything about my environment? Pretty freaking hard. How much does the bad guy need to know about my environment to make me pay? Not much. So obfuscating that information is great. Knowing more than they know is necessary. And again, the question that I usually get from my clients on incident response stuff is, can you tell me what's suspicious about network capture A? Nope. Can you tell me what's normal about network capture A? Then we can start to talk about what's suspicious. If there's any one concept you're going to leave all of BSides or any security conference with, I hope it's that one. Because this will save you a lot of trouble. Not because I said it, but because a lot of people say it just differently. So, you have to have this understanding of normal before you can have the understanding of suspicious. So let's go make things better. That's all I want. I got into security because I wanted the world to be a better place about this stuff. I wanted my son to be more secure when he's my age than I am right now. Because, we all have the issues of, has anybody here had their credit card expire naturally in the last 2 years? What, you only use it once? I mean, come on, I have yet to. I have 3 different ones. All of them have gotten popped at least twice. So we need to make the world a little better about this. I wish I had some better ideas than this really, drudgery, death slog type work. But right now, that's what's going to work. That's what it takes. It's what I have to do at my office. That's what you're probably going to need to do some flavor of at your office. So, let's start asking questions. Please, God, someone have a question. Other than the ones we've already talked about. Okay, so what I always do, because I know questions don't always happen easily, is I try and do some, hey, I talk too fast slides. And even with difficulty with the computers, I'm still going to have that. The company I work for, Parameter out of St. Louis, has a conference, ShowMeCon, coming up in a couple months. Some of the great people you've seen today will be there. It's what we call premiere, because we have it at a casino. And so it's a really great event. Please come. It's amazing. There's some classes, all that kind of stuff. ShowMeCon.com. And then my second slide, this is just basically me ranting, if nobody has any better questions, is we really shouldn't call stuff all this various cyber, because there's already 3 types of disasters: atomic disasters, biological disasters, and chemical disasters. So we can't call this stuff cyber disasters. So let's go with digital disasters. Then we can have ABC, D, taxonomy of disasters, because these things just keep happening. How many breaches does it take? How many people, having these issues does it take to call it a disaster? We live in a really weird world. All right, last call for questions. Mm-hmm. You know that now. If only some of those guys could come to conferences like this, learn that kind of stuff, if we could all just share our knowledge a little bit better, without legally mandating sharing information, maybe things would work out better. No, packet inspection is hard. That takes way too much time. Changing names on stuff. Yeah, Blinky Lightbox doesn't do it. This actually takes work. If those of you who want to do pen testing who haven't done it yet and go, oh, I get to break stuff and it's really cool and it's all easy, you'll learn. All right. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Yes.
You've got these unupgradable systems for your AI password server. That really and truly is a distraction.
Yes.
It's unaware, it's unpatchable, but your operation can't do without it, so you end up needing something on the other end with those systems, and you just kind of
yes.
No
just leave it over there.
Netflix, nothing but the specific traffic that you need. Again, the high value one's an easy sell. The straggler
is much harder.
Who wants to volunteer to go on the straggler zone? It turns out that ends up being just as important. So those systems are they've matured to a state of
persistent obsolescence?
Or persistent vulnerability.
Yes, and yeah, I used to call it no man's land, but it needs to exist too. Any other comments? Again, thank you guys so much. Make sure you give Lauren like a hug or buy her some bourbon or something for doing all this. And then Jeff, same thing. Finn, all the other red shirts, thank you guys, and make sure you're thanking everybody as you do this. And thank you guys for coming to BSides.